To work with me, Kelsier had said, I only ask that you promise one thing. To trust me.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cosmere Connections. We're a bunch of book-loving nerds looking back and rereading the entire Brandon Sanderson series involving Cosmere. My name is Reader. I am joined by Swiggity Swoo.
Hey, I'm the thing you can't kill, Hope.
I am joined by John.
My flesh is transparent sometimes.
And I am joined by Kay.
Hey, hello from your local Tenai.
And
Oh,
today
fancy.
we are going to be finishing Mistborn Part 5, Believers in a Forgotten World. We will not be covering the epilogue because we're going to be saving that for next episode where we're going to talk about the entire book in general. Hopefully we're going to get our full cast for that. But we are going to finish the main story of Mistborn tonight. I know we're all excited, all scared. Is there anything we would like to comment upon this before we jump right into chapter 35?
It's exciting.
Just want to say that this is a great, I think, ending. Epilogue aside, like when I first listened to this and read this and going through it again, I really appreciate this ending. He really nailed it. Sander Lynch on this is crazy.
This was such a surprise when you first read it, to go from, Marsh dies, which is kind of similar to how part 3 ended with their rebellion kind of dying, and then it just steamrolls to, oh, here goes the house war, here goes the Kelsier's fighting an Inquisitor, Kelsier's dead, and now, okay, time to fight the Lord Ruler.
The dominoes have definitely fallen.
It just happens so fast. It's pretty cool though. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot.
It almost comes as like a shock.
I mean, it does happen really fast.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I read it going like, wait, what? Where's the rest? Fortunately, I had the next book in hand and was able to just continue on, but yeah, it was quite an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember the first time reading this just being like confused, just like what is happening, and now going back to it, it's like just really satisfying because it all fits together and all works so well.
Even on like this reread, like I start part 5 and I'm like, wait a second, this is it.
Yeah.
4 chapters, and that's the book.
I think like going through it like this, like a couple chapters at a time and talking about it in a weird way kind of makes the book feel smaller because you realize like every part of it, how little chaff there is and how much of it is like core to the story.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's still a full 600 and something pages.
Yeah, 600 something
642 in this edition.
Wow.
Let me check mine. This one's 643.
This one, yeah, 643.
Okay, let's stop comparing book sizes and move on to the actual.
That's almost dirty. So, starting with chapter 35, I'll just read the epigraph real quick because it's short. I know what will happen if I make the wrong choice. I must be strong. I must not take the power for myself, for I have seen what will happen if I do.
Dun, dun, dun.
Spooky.
Technically, he doesn't, right?
Well, we don't know because the epigraphs are from one person, and the person that we think the epigraphs are from another person. So maybe.
So we're just gonna start talking about this now.
You're not gonna wait until my chapter?
No,
your chapter has everything.
We can wait.
We'll dial it back. All
right. So I'll zip through this so we can get to the important chapters. So we open up with Vin kind of floating in the mists. Mourning, really, is what she's doing. She's isolating herself and contemplating the darkness and trying to figure out, why did Kelsier betray me? right? She views his death as a betrayal. Like, he has left the same way her mother did, the same way Reen did, the same way Eulif did. You know, all of these people have left her, and now Kelsier too. And so she's kind of feeling this loss that she's really not familiar with, because she's never been quite so close to any of those other people. And eventually Sazed comes out looking for her, and they debate a bit about the existence of evil and, you know, whether evil is real or whatever. And they talk about, you know, how Hammond likes to ask questions, but even he believes in the answers when they're right in front of him. And then they talk about the value of faith and belief, and why it's important to believe in things, and even if they fail, it's even more important to have faith in them. And of course, right as they're talking about that, they hear people, and it turns out to be Ska, one in particular who has kind of collected a group of people and is sort of preaching to them about, you know, Lord Kelsier has, you know, he's given his life for us, and he's, you know, we did nothing, and, you know, what are we doing? And we need to have hope, and we need to listen to him, and he's not gone. I saw him just tonight. And so Vin and Zazid, who are watching this, go and they call for the rest of the crew members to come and see this, and they watch, and they kind of come to the realization that this was Kelsier's plan all along. He was setting himself up to become a religious figurehead of sorts to the Ska, to give them something to believe in, to give them a purpose and some drive, and to get them to rally. And so they, when they come to that realization, they go to one of the warehouses where they've stored up all the weapons and everything that they had collected under the Renew guys. And that's where they find, believe it or not, Renew / Kelsier, who's now looks like Kelsier, even though he was Renew. And everybody, well, not everybody, but Vin is very confused for a minute, and we find out what Kandra are and a little bit about how they work. He reveals his transparent flesh. Yep, that's where I got my intro from. And so that they can see the bones of Kelsier underneath, which, holy crap, that would be disturbing, especially if I was like 17.
Yeah.
So this Kandra then gives them a letter from Kelsier, which outlines the plan, and they were pretty much right. Doxson was to be a bureaucrat, Breeze was to be a politician, Hammond and Clubs were to be generals, and Vin was originally supposed to be a mass murderer and kill all the nobles, but she kind of brought Kelsier around on that and showed him that, you know, maybe not all of them are bad. You know, maybe one or two can survive. I know we have some real fanatics for the nobles here, or at least one in particular.
Yeah.
But then Vin is left with the question of, well, what do I do after all the dust settles? And she's like, well, what else does a strong government need? Like, what does a kingdom need? They need an assassin, by gum, and that's what I can do. So she arms herself to the teeth with weapons, particularly wooden arrows with like steel rings around them, and like just starts swallowing dust full of metal like they're pixie sticks, and off she goes. See ya. And that's where the chapter kind of comes to a close.
I love that scene, like when she's getting ready. There's so many scenes in movies like that where like the heroes getting geared up and you see them like tightening down their belts or whatever, and like, or in Scott Pilgrim he's like tying his shoe. Like,
Yeah.
Need guns. Lots
I
of
love
guns.
that stuff. Yeah, exactly.
I will say two things. One, we get, like you touched on it briefly, but I want to make it like perfectly out there, that we know what a Kandra is now, and that it is a Mistwraith that has grown up, whatever that
Right.
means.
Exactly.
Which was this nice little thing that Sanderson really loves to do, where he gives you like this little something that kind of means nothing in the first part, and then draws it back in near the end.
Here's a little tasty nugget of something just enough to make you go, okay, cool. How does that work? And then, oh no, read and find out.
Yeah.
But the Conjure's... Sorry.
No, go ahead. Good.
I was going to say the Conjure is such an interesting idea. Like, we've seen that Straff and Venture have them. To have a spy that can be anybody.
Yeah. And I honestly, as far as like all of the fantastical creatures and species and things across any selection of, fiction, I think they are probably the most interesting because there's more to them than just being a human with a skin condition and maybe a strange or a comparatively strange sense of honor, right? Like they are entirely alien.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was that we also see that the religion of Kelsier is not just that one preacher. It's like throughout the entire city of Luthadel.
Yes, I forgot to mention that crowd grows considerably over the course of this chapter, and it's a significant chunk of the Ska population that have kind of rallied to this figurehead and this sign of hope.
And they see multiple other bands of ska forming in the mists.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out that Vin also grabs fistfuls of metal flakes and like shoves them in like a bag to take with her.
Yeah, pocket sand.
Yeah, pocket sand. Pocket sand.
My favorite thing was... Sorry.
I was gonna say, is this the chapter where it's like they talk about how the torches lit up the mist and it's like almost like it's daytime out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that was a cool detail.
It finally has like a yellowish glow. It looks like how a day should.
Yeah. So visually cool.
We also get There's Another Secret. I added that to our counter. We now have 4.
Oh, I missed that. Wow.
and you know what? There was no ash falling from the sky.
Nope. And then there was a Vin gets the drawing of the flower. I also really love that.
Yeah, that was folded up in the letter.
That's
I forgot
so
about
cute.
Kelsier passes it on.
I think
because he can't be there anymore.
I think in the letter, Kelsier's last words were "Remember to smile," or something like that.
And he also says that he'll tell Mare about her. They always wanted a daughter.
So sad.
It was just so
and sweet. Like when Vin is floating in the mists at the beginning of this chapter, it says, the mists were cold on her skin like the tears of a dead man.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I wish I could write that well.
That's beautiful language.
Yeah. The last line is the farewell. I'll tell Mare about you. She always wanted a daughter.
Aw.
Yeah.
It's the last line in the little note that he leaves her.
Let's move on.
No, we just spent like 4 more minutes on this.
Don't cry now. There's killing to be done.
Yeah.
And that's my chapter. So in chapter 36, Vin makes good on the promise of the last chapter when she's getting ready, Rambo style. So Vin goes to Critic Shaw while the Ska rebel. She talks to the guards into letting her pass. You know, she has this awesome scene where she's like, "I know you. You know, you were a Ska.
Mm-hmm.
You were down on your luck. The Lord Ruler said he would feed you. You know, you don't have to be like them anymore." And she inspires them. One of them like rips off his patch, and he's like, "I can't do this anymore, man." So this is also a really cool chapter because she's just walking purposefully into the ministry, like she just has this fatalistic, determined sense about her. Like she doesn't care anymore. It's kind of awesome. So she actually walks up to 2 inquisitors and immediately burns Atium. She pushes her arrowhead weapons at the Inquisitors. They're super effective because the arrow tips are like obsidian, and the rings that they push against just go flying back, but like the arrows keep coming towards the Inquisitors. And she like throws out her pewter pocket sand from the last chapter and dashes forward, and I think she just hits them or something. She slashes at them with her blades.
She slashes their like legs.
Yeah.
And before you continue, I do want to say Kelsier also gave her the 11th medal.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, that's an important little nugget. Another thing that was cool too is she refers to the square as the square of the survivor instead of like its proper name. I thought that was really cool.
The execution square.
Yeah. Because they're like, where? The square of the survivor. So she's kind of there to get info. She's actually not there to confront the Lord Ruler. She's there to get info and leave. She's looking for that little room that he likes to hang out in. Maybe there's something in there that she can use to kill him. So she finds what she's looking for in terms of the room, but there's nothing useful. Like, there's nothing that she can use against the Lord Ruler there. It's just a bunch of old stuff. Like, she calls it pack rat stuff. And then a very James Bond moment happens where this like old man in a chair spins around and he's like, I've been waiting for you. And she goes to leave, but there's Inquisitors there and they catch her. And it's revealed that the old man is actually the Lord Ruler. And he looks, like the same guy, but he's older now and he's like decrepit. And he orders the Inquisitors to kill Vin, but they say that they want her alive because she can help them with some of their ulterior motives, which is revealed later to have to do with the Canton of Orthodoxy. So in this moment, Vin is like being held by the Inquisitors, and she's staring down the Lord Ruler, and she's kind of helpless. So what she does is the only thing she has left, which is to burn the 11th medal. And she sees next to the Lord Ruler like this other man who's wearing like a fur coat, and he looks like he's from a different world, but he looks content and he looks happy. And next to the Inquisitor, she sees like a nobleman, and she just doesn't know what to do with that information. She's like, okay, that's what the 11th medal does. Great.
Weird.
Yeah, weird. So the 11th medal burns out, and the Lord Ruler agrees to let the Inquisitors keep Vin and meet with the Obligators, including Tavidian. He's mentioned by name. They're going to meet with him, who we know from previous chapters is Vin's dad. They knock out Vin, and it switches to Ellen's point of view. He is going to meet with his father, Strathventure, and he tells Ellen that there's a Sky Rebellion happening and that they're planning on booking it. Venture is going to leave Luthadel, which is something they were planning on doing before the rebellion even started, because Kelsier destroyed the Pits of Athsin, and now they have no money. So Ellen is like livid about this, and he refuses. He's like, I know, someone needs to stay, and someone needs to make peace with the Ska, because this is just going to be this big violent revolution, and it's not going to accomplish anything, It's just going to fall to chaos. Ellen's a good guy.
Which is true.
Yeah. His dad seizes that opportunity and decides that Ellen would be a really good fall guy when the Lord Ruler eventually finds out that there's no more Aetium. So he's like, yeah, you can stay in Luthadel. You can take the soldiers. I'm out of here. So Ellen has a second of where he realizes, oh God, I'm the one in charge now. And so he orders the soldiers to gather everyone and go to Keep Leakow and try to make peace and organize the noblemen. But he asks for 5 of the best men to be his personal honor guard. Why? Because he plans on turning himself in. So, switches back to Vin's point of view. They forced Vin to swallow an unknown metal.
A
which
12th metal.
I feel like we all know what that is, being big fans.
We'll talk about that in the spoilers. Spoiler.
Yeah, right. But what it does, they force her to burn it, it basically depletes all of her metal reserves. So now she has no metals. They took her clothes, they took her weapons, and so she's stripped figuratively and literally in this chapter, and they throw her in jail. Vin realizes burning the 11th metal feels similar to burning gold, and she wonders if gold and atium are not paired after all, and she wonders if the 11th metal is an alloy of gold. She ruminates on how like the metals are in groups of 4, and she kind of ponders on what she might have been seeing when she was burning the 11th metal based on what gold does and how the alloys work with all the different metals.
The Inquisitors were thinking as like she burned this metal and like they felt this totally new pulse coming from her.
Oh gosh, I never thought about that.
I mean, that's only if they were burning bronze themselves.
True. But I would imagine that they, as well as like the Lord Ruler, are like always burning that.
Oh.
I don't know. That might get annoying for them, you know, like especially in Creedic Shaw itself, where everybody's always burning metals, especially the Inquisitors.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, never mind then.
I mean, they got her. That's probably the only time they're not burning bronze. Like, finally.
Yeah, right.
Turn this off.
Need a break.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have one Inquisitor who's like on watch per se to look for.
They get a bronze guy.
That one Inquisitor is just like, what the heck is going on?
Guys, you're not gonna believe this.
Sounds like a raven there.
So yeah, she's thinking, she's trying to make sense of what she saw, right? The Inquisitors come and they grab her, and Vin spits on one of them and it pisses him off. That's a good scene. They take Vin to the most Mistborn room I can imagine, which is basically this big room at the top of a tower with nothing but stained glass all the way around. And the pattern on it is like a colorful mist.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah, it does. I can just picture I can picture the room really well, but I can picture that being like the final boss in this video game or something.
Oh yeah.
Really epic. To make a long story short, there's like a bunch of obligators up there, and there's more Inquisitors, and they basically are there to... The Inquisitors are there to seize control of the Ministry from the Obligators, and to do that, they're going to prove that the Obligators can't be trusted because Vin exists, and she is a half-breed Ska nobleman child of Tavidian, who is the High Praelin, and if they can't trust the High Praelin, who can they trust? So they get Vin to confess that Tavidian is her father, and
they don't. The Lord Ruler does.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He does it with like physically, painfully brutal allomancy, emotional allomancy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy because she's like tearing up and crying over it, and then like as soon as he walks away, she forgets why she was even crying, right?
Yeah, she's just like, that was weird. I don't like this.
Yeah, this whole situation is not looking good for her.
No.
Yeah.
I think that's almost it for the chapter. The Lord Ruler wants them to dispose of Vin, but Kara wants to ask her a few questions. And that's pretty much where we leave for right now.
Let's see.
Who's your daddy and what does he do?
Yeah.
Get to the job.
Jeez, there's so much that goes on this. The first one is basically the stealth mission that nobody does as a stealth mission.
Yeah.
When stealth is an option.
You know, I thought was interesting is this chapter has Vin and Ellen's fathers in it.
Oh, that's true.
Both stand-up guys, not.
Yeah.
Stand up and walk away, you mean?
They're both leave guys.
Let's see. The Inquisitors that Vin had like attacked on her entryway, they were the ones that grabbed her. They had healed really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about the Ellen thing is we have actual history related to that. That's basically how the French Revolution went. Is that they got so bloodthirsty for noble or rich people / forgetting the word, that they just guillotined all of them so much that they started guillotining themselves.
Yeah, it's like that whole hostile takeover, like mutiny, chaos situation. Like, that's a classic historical thing, right?
I've always loved that parallel.
Yeah, and Ellen talks about how his philosophers have talked about this a lot, that this is what would happen.
Oh, so-and-so predicted this. This is what he thinks will happen. I must prevent this.
He's not wrong.
I mean, it's kind of Nostradamus-y, really, at that point. Like,
yeah. Was Carr only after Vin because he wanted to use her as leverage against the Obligators?
Yes. But Bendel, whose name is dropped in the next chapter, actually is the one who has been chasing her for years and was the one in the square that Kelsier killed.
Oh, really?
Yep, Bendel's the one with the board in the background with all the yarn.
I like that Kelsier killed him. That's cool.
Yeah. So he's name dropped in the next chapter.
Before I get to that, just check my notes for anything in this chapter. We learned that physical, emotional, and now temporal sections of Elemency. Plus whatever this new.
I was hoping you'd talk more about that. Actually.
Physical, mental, and temporal. Those are.
Yeah, so but I don't think they use the word temporal though.
She uses like time. She specifically says like time travel, time manipulation.
Related to time.
I thought she did use temporal.
That's how it's
right to me.
Temporal is how it's seen as nowadays. That's how it's later described. It's just they didn't have the right verbiage for it back then. But it's known as temporal, in which we've got the 11th metal, we've got gold. Yeah. We've got the 11th metal, we've got gold, and we got atium. Which, going off of this rule of 4, that means there's one more out there.
So they are referred to them as the time-affecting metals. That's how they refer to them, not as temporal metals. Temporal is something that used later on to refer to them, but they are referred to as time-affecting metals.
Yeah, that's about it. Now the Inquisitors rule the Ministry. That's gonna go well. All right, chapter 37. The Lord Ruler, quotation marks, comments about the sun's beauty in the opening epigraph, and then we've jumped to Doxson, who is reworking Kelsier's plan and refining it. Goradel, who I believe is the one that Vin told to come from.
Yep.
Critic Shaw reports that Vin is now being held captured by Inquisitors. Elend surrenders and offers a truce between Scott and nobles and a warning that if we don't do this and we don't work together, that the whole Luthadel is going to burn. Doxson agrees to stop attacking nobles, and when he asks where Vin is, he tells him. And then Ellen basically turns his sights on Credit Shaw. Bendel was the name of the stalker. Thank you, Kay. Because I did not have that in my notes. I actually was about to research that. And Reen died saying that she died long ago. And this is the moment that kind of gives me redemption feels.
Yeah,
Because
I
if
could
you
see
think
that. He held out under Inquisitor torture, right?
Yeah, he's still an abusive,
I'm not saying he's a
like,
good person, but if you think about it, he must have figured out that they had an Inquisitor sniffing after them, dumped Vin with Kamen. It was Kamen,
well,
right?
that's why they were always moving, because he knew that people would be after them.
But I guess like he figured it wouldn't last for long, so he dumped Vin with Kamen and then went out himself and
Yeah.
not necessarily purposefully, but eventually knew he would get captured, and then sacrificed himself under Inquisitor torture.
I think he stayed with Vin until he felt she was old enough to where he could leave her by herself and she would be fine, and then dumped her to lead them off of their trail.
Either
Her
way,
trail.
it
Yeah.
was a self-sacrifice. I'm not saying it makes up for the emotional baggage that he gave in, but it gives me slight redemption feels.
It's nice to know. It's nice to know at the end, like, he never betrayed her. Even though, yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
It's like, if you were that traumatizing to her, like, I don't know. I don't think he's redeemed, but it is a nice sentiment.
With his whole anybody can betray you and I will, but he didn't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that. They then bring in Sazed and they're going to torture her by hurting him. Carr, the Inquisitor, leaves and Sazed immediately wakes up saying, "This is all part of my plan." He then starts storing pewter, deflating his muscles so he looks skinny, and then after a few minutes, taps it and breaks the cage, saying that he took an idea from her book and swallowed a pewter mind. They start making their escape. Saw Zed running out as a gigantic man and telling Vin to run, but Vin doesn't want to. So she attacks some of the guards, but doesn't really do much because she's got very little weaponry and no elemancy. And then Elend arrives with his small group of soldiers, and he tells Sazed to take Vin and run. And he tries to for a bit. Vin struggles, and it's very sad because she doesn't want to leave him. And then they notice that her stuff is over in a chest in the corner. So she puts back on her mist cloak, swallows a couple vials, and comes back, finishes off the guards.
Comes back with a vengeance.
You come at my man. Um, Vin hugs Elend and says, "You came back," which is probably the sweetest thing that she could say in that moment. Elend explains that Doxson told him where to go. And it's so weird now to have Elend be talking about Doxson and that those two sections of the story are now one. Um, he asks that she please put on clothes, and she does. She puts her cloak on, she puts on trousers, even her mother's earring, and then she kisses Ellen and says she thinks she knows how to kill the Lord Ruler and how to use the 11th metal. Which that's got to be really weird. Because up until a minute ago, he didn't even know she was Mistborn. And then she's like, "Okay, bye, I'm off to kill the god."
Whoosh.
I'm off to
Sazed,
kill your god. Okay, bye.
bye. Sazed,
I've
he'll
already
come
killed your
back.
fiance. Now it's time to go kill your god.
That was me.
Oh my gosh.
Sazed says he'll come help after he gets Ellen to safety. And then that was 37.
This was a great chapter. Um, the one thing I never really thought about until we started recording this podcast is like, Sazed was planning on leaving and going to the other terrorist people and bringing that knowledge that he had from the logbook with him. And so the fact that he goes to Credit Shaw to try to save Vin, it's like a really big sacrifice that I never appreciated until this reading, like thinking about it, you know?
Yeah,
hmm
because he says that he left notes for people, but at the same time, like he he's taking a really big risk
You know what they
in
do to
everything
guys
that
like
he's
him?
doing.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah,
finally got clues on his people's culture and history,
yeah.
and he's doing that to save this little girl.
Hmm.
Boy. And then Ellen
Oh,
does the
he
same thing, though, too.
says it did say at one point that he's always been something of a rebel.
It's
Yep.
true. We do see this kind of really weird scene of him being castrated. And it's kind of this sharp focus about all the torture he's already gone through.
Yeah, Vin glances at his Ken crotch. Had that. She's got to take a peek, right?
Oh,
Uh,
that's one of the scenes I would change in the movie. Like, don't have Vin be in Spanx or
Well, she's not really. She's in like a white like undershirt and like shorts, like white shorts.
okay, but yeah, there's so much that needs to fit into a movie. We do not need to have Vin like putting on clothes again. Putting on her Miss cloak, yes. Her mother's earring, okay, I can get that. It's a part of who she is. But do we really need like Ellen blushing at that? Yeah,
Oh yeah, we need it. We need anime
you could come.
nosebleeds.
yeah.
Yeah, we've already got Spook with one.
Yep. We should have a counter of those.
Anime nosebleeds.
Okay, are you ready to move on to the last chapter?
No, not really.
I wanted to say really
Ever-
quick, Tavidian did get murdered at the end of my chapter, and I forgot to mention it.
Who?
Tavidian, the Lord Prelin, Vin's
Ellen,
dad.
Vin's dad.
Yeah.
His name has no meaning.
No, it really doesn't.
Yes, he did get killed by the Inquisitors at the end. Okay, so
You're very excited.
The floor.
ready? So we start off this chapter. Vin is flying through the sky above Creedic Shaw, and she's looking down and she's thinking about the last time that she was there. When and how much she has changed since then. Because the last time she was there, she was broken, she was tired, she was exhausted, she was hurt, she was badly injured. She didn't know what was going on. This time, she's there and she's fully prepared and she's ready to go. And she spots the tower where the Lord Ruler is, and she has a plan for that she's gonna defeat the Lord Ruler. She thinks she knows what to do. So then we switch to Car's point of view, the Inquisitor, um, which is really interesting to think about because we get a little sense of we get to learn about how the Inquisitors see.
Yeah, it's cool to get an Inquisitor point of view, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Answers a lot of questions right there.
yeah, we get to learn that the Inquisitors they can see all the little tiny bits of metal in everything, and they're outlined in iron lines. So he can see outlines of people, outlines of things. He can tell how people are feeling based on their body, their their how their bodies look. So the Lord Ruler gives the Inquisitors full control over his ministry. And Carr is very excited. He's very happy about this. The obligators, not so much. But, Carr is like, they can deal with this, whatever. It's our turn, and we learn that the Inquisitors have been planning this for centuries to try to get power away from the obligators. So, as after the rest of the Inquisitors leave, after the Lord Ruler has passed over power to the Inquisitors. And then there's a little clink through the window. And Vin bursts through the window and starts running towards the dais that the Lord Ruler is standing on. Carr takes a second to realize what's happening before he starts chasing after her. She burns the 11th metal and she sees the shadow, the past self of the Lord Ruler, and goes straight at it and tries to stab it through the heart with her dagger. And she goes right through. It's not solid. There's nothing there. And she's like, what is going on? She's like, I thought this was it because I could touch my gold shadow. Why can't I touch this? This doesn't make sense.
Wah, wah, wah.
So it's not how to defeat the Lord Ruler. And she's like, well, crap. Now I don't know what to do. And she gets pulled into a hold by Carr. And she's struggling. She's trying really hard to get out of it. She just can't break the hold. In walks another Inquisitor. And the other Inquisitor walks up behind Carr and pulls a spike out of Carr's back. And Carr drops dead to the ground, releasing Vin.
In a very
Vin is-
anticlimactic manner, I must say.
Vin is very confused. She's like, what? She's like, oh, there are more spikes in the Inquisitors other than the two in their eyes. And clearly pulling out that back spike kills the Inquisitor. That Inquisitor then starts running towards the dais and his hood falls off. And Vin looks at him and recognizes him and realizes that that is Marsh. Marsh is not dead. He was turned into an Inquisitor. The Inquisitors weren't watching him because they suspected him. They were watching him because they wanted to recruit him. So Marsh is alive. Yay! So he runs up the dais and runs to behind the Lord Ruler and rips the back of the Lord Ruler's jacket and shirt off, and then freezes. Pauses. The Lord Ruler whips around and whacks him. And Vin sees what Marsh saw and realizes that there's not a spike in the back of the Lord Ruler. So Marsh had a good
Clever.
idea.
But no.
Vin had a good idea. Both of them are wrong for how to defeat him. And the Lord Ruler starts whipping their butts. Vin tries to run across the room at one point to try to grab Marsh and leave. But she gets pushed by a very powerful push. She said it feels like a steel push that's pushing on the metals inside her stomach. She's like, there's no way that could be it. That doesn't make any sense. She tries to use, and the Lord Ruler's push sends all of the metal streaming away from outside, streaming away and out of the room. Then she tries to use the Lord Ruler's bracelet to jump, and he flicks it around and causes her to spin and slam into a wall and causing her to break her leg. She's on the ground. She's disabled. Marsh is on the ground, disabled, can't do anything. The Lord Ruler starts waxing poetically.
He starts monologuing.
He does start monologuing. And he makes a comment when referencing to Marsh that he doesn't understand why Marsh has betrayed him, because he made Marsh dominant. And this triggers something in Vin's mind. She remembers in the logbook Rashik, the terraceman, always saying that his people should be dominant. And she goes, and she says it out loud. She says, "You're not the author of the logbook. You're Rashik. You were his servant." The Lord Ruler like whips around and it's like, "What?" Excuse me. What you call me? Also, I forgot to point out at before he starts monologuing, he like rips off the front of his shirt so his arms are bare, and Vin notices that he has bracers on his upper arms that are piercing his skin so they can't be pushed or pulled by allomancy. So, yes. So, are you talking to us?
Who, me?
No, reader. I can't hear you.
Oh my gosh, this whole time I thought you guys were
There
just
you go.
ignoring me. This whole
No.
time I thought you were ignoring me. I've been adding stuff this entire time.
I thought you were being quiet.
Yeah, I just thought you were being quiet. I didn't hear you. It wasn't until I looked over at you and I saw your mouth moving that I realized you were
Oh
trying
my
to say something.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I feel so bad.
Oh, thanks, man.
Uh,
She pushes off his rings, not off his bracers, because he wiggles his hand, and
No.
also she burns the 11th metal.
I hadn't gotten there yet.
No, you were just talking about Rashek. She burns the 11th metal, and then she says Rashek.
Oh, yes. Yes, she burns the 11th metal and then she says Rashek. And she realizes, she's like, why is this important? Why is this important? Why is this important? He's a terrorist man. Not only is he a terrorist man, he's a ferrochemist.
Ta-da.
Dun, dun, dun.
And she's like, maybe he's not wearing metal as a sign of bravado, as a sign of like strength. He's wearing metal to try to distract. He's wearing lots of rings and bracelets to distract from the bracers on his arms, to make sure people don't notice those and ignore those ones, because those are his metal mine stores.
Bum, bum, bum.
So she frantically tries to flare iron to try to pull the bracers off of the Lord Ruler. But she can't see lines going to them because they're embedded in his skin. They're piercing his skin, so she can't pull on them. The Lord Ruler is pushing on her because now he wants to kill her, because she knows his secret. She knows who he is. She knows what he is. So she needs to die. So he's trying to push on her and to like squish her into the ground, essentially. And
I thought it was into like a pillar.
into like a pillar. I don't know. I don't remember which one it is. I always pictured like she's kind of like in like a corner. So it's like she's like on the
pushed up.
ground. I thought she was on the ground because like her leg broke.
She was, but like the push probably sent her a little bit into the air, because she's like, at one point, her chest is no longer moving.
Yeah, that could also be because she's like being pushed. I don't know. Okay, whatever. It's not that big a deal. But she's being pushed. It causes her mother's earring to rip out of her ear. She feels the metal in her stomach being pushed by the Lord Ruler's intense steel push. And she ends up drawing on the mists somehow. And then she is able to see the lines pointing to the Lord Ruler's bracers and quickly yanks the bracers off of the Lord Ruler. And then the Lord Ruler immediately starts aging.
I love that when she's like bracing and she's trying to pull him and she runs out of pewter and she thinks he killed Kelsier and she pulls them off anyways.
Yeah.
For like 1 second, the line appears and she just doesn't even.
God,
Yeah.
that's great.
And the Lord Ruler tries to come towards her because he's like, "You, like, no." And she she pushes the bracers out the window.
My brand.
They're gone, and he like reaches after them and tries to like lurch after them, but he is getting so old that he can barely move now. And Vin passes out. 'Cause, from the pain, the exhaustion, everything. Sazed shows up and gives Vin some medals to help wake her up. She burns pewter and tin, comes back to her senses. And they look over at the Lord Ruler, and Sazed mentions that he's not dead yet. He's not quite dead yet. So they go up to him, and the Lord Ruler is like, "How could you do this? Like, what? Like, my obligators will not allow this to happen." And they're saying Marsh says your obligators will forget you, because I will control your church now, because I'm the only Inquisitor left in the Central Dominance.
That's really convenient, right?
Yeah, because he killed all the other
Hoisted by
ones.
his own petard.
And
By
Marsh
process
is
of
like
elimination,
7, 8
I'm
years.
the leader now.
He is
killed-
Marsh
yeah,
took
he-
out. Yeah, 7.
Oh, we forgot to mention, Marsh killed all the other Inquisitors in Luthadel.
Yeah, he killed all the other Inquisitors, pulled all their spikes out.
Yeah,
There better be a scene of that if they make this into a movie.
So, and right as at the end, the Lord Ruler says, "You don't understand. You don't know what I do for mankind. I was your god, even if you couldn't see it. By killing me, you have doomed yourselves."
Ew.
And then Vin says, "I bring a message to you from a friend of ours. He wanted you to know that he's not dead. He can't be killed. He is hope." And then
Stabs him in the heart with a spear.
with a spear.
So
and so
poetic.
ends Mistborn in the Final Empire.
And so ends the book.
Then she
And the
ran
Lord
the
Ruler.
spear directly into the Lord Ruler's heart. It's so badass.
There's so much to talk about in this section.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to bring up is when Vin's first in that aerial view, like she refers to the Lord Ruler as capital H, him, like as God. Like in her mind, he is still that indomitable creature.
Oh, that's a cool detail. Kind of going along with that, I noticed that Sazed, he swears and he's like, "By the forgotten gods," and he doesn't say the
I love
Lord
that.
Ruler. Like he's no longer swearing by him. It's awesome.
I don't think Sazed ever did.
I don't think Sazed ever swore by the Lord Ruler. I think he always swore by the forgotten gods.
Oh, really?
He's the religious guy. Yeah.
He's an OG. He's cool.
Why does the Lord Ruler call for help? This always confused me. When Vin first enters, crashes through the window, which is the new book cover, because I honestly didn't figure that out until recently.
Oh, are you talking about?
Because he's
Talking
tired.
about that?
Yeah, that one. The Lord Ruler calls for help. He's like, "Inquisitors, to me!" Like, he could one-shot this girl if he wanted to.
He's tired. He doesn't want to. He doesn't feel like doing it himself. He would rather someone else do it.
Like, I like
If
to
you
think the
have-
Lord Ruler... Sorry.
If you have guards, you might as well use them.
Yeah, but the Lord Ruler just did his... Which we had heard earlier in the book, like, for every 10... What is it? Every 10 weeks he goes into his room for 10 hours or something.
3 weeks, 3 hours. But yes.
3 weeks. So he just... Now we know that he was storing age, which it's never explicitly stated, but that's atium. That's what atium is storing. So that's a slight spoiler, which I don't think really harms anything. He was restoring that. And that's why he appeared really old, and then he would tap that age and he would look really young. But like he just refilled his metal mines. Why does he call for the Inquisitors?
Because he's tired.
It's his instinct, I bet. You know,
Okay, that's just a slight little peep.
And
doesn't
I
want
think
to
he
ruin his
doesn't
robe.
and he doesn't know if there's gonna be more people popping in as well. He doesn't know that it's just the one person.
True.
Like he could deal with her on his own, but it's a lot more work.
Plus, he's paying
When-
these guys, I assume. You know, might
Yeah.
as well let them
paying
do their
them-
jobs.
Yeah. Let's see.
With
When
with
Vin
what,
is being
actually?
grappled by Car,
Spikes.
it's Car, right?
Mhm.
The
Car
mist avoid
crashed
them,
into her.
and I love. There's a specific line about how the mist is avoiding them in that one moment, almost like it's scared to take part. But also, like, Ruler comments about how in the previous life, Car was a soldier, and he knew exactly how to make a person survive long enough without escaping. Like, we were given that little people in the past, and then we've got Marsh literally showing up a second later.
John, it seemed like you didn't really appreciate the Marsh comeback.
No, it was just like it was super easy. It was just like, oh, boop, and now you die. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just it felt very. Oh God, here's this threat. Oh wait, never mind. It's not a problem. Like, meh.
Just
Yeah,
like
I'll give you
the
that.
gravity of it didn't really
Yeah,
sink
like-
in.
Yeah, it kind of missed a little bit, and at what 600 and whatever pages, like we were talking, like brevity is a thing, and also we've already had the one like super detailed, intricate Inquisitor fight, so we don't necessarily need another. And it gives an opportunity to point out that hey, they have a weakness, but like
It
there
had
could have
no
been a little bit
build-up
of
or
a
anything.
scuffle before he pulled it out. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's just
I
like,
Like
get that.
maybe when they were fighting earlier, if like Vin stabbed towards like his back, like they instinctively moved away or something.
Or what if they were
Like,
all
yeah.
fighting and then like one of them like turned and they were like Vin was back to back with one of the Inquisitors, and then it's like, okay, I guess one of the Inquisitors is fighting with me now, and like then that turned out to be Marsh. Like, how cool would that be?
there you go.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool. But it's literally possible. Like this is a spike in a person. Like just removing that a kill. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'll agree that it kind of comes out of nowhere, but they build upon it in later books, so I'll let it slide.
I love it. The rule of cool.
I almost gotta wonder, was ska a slang term? Because now that we know that the Lord Ruler was Rashek, and he killed the author of the book, who was the original hero. Do you think ska was a slang term that Rashek and his friends had, maybe for Clenny people?
Ooh, that's an
Maybe.
interesting question.
I'd always kind of wondered where the term ska came from, and like,
Yeah.
Like that would be like cool if like I always envision like the full epilogue is like the DVD special, like you go under special, you click that, and maybe you can have like a small like 10-minute movie where you follow that and it's all narrated. Maybe have like a scene where Rashek calls him a ska and like they're all taken aback by it.
This is tricky because we're like, these are like soft spoiler section type topics.
These are stuff that you aren't given explicitly to you, but you can figure out. So I'm trying very carefully not to reveal anything huge, but I think
Yeah.
these little small things that if you were to pause and think about them for a while, you could understand them.
Mhm.
And I've always wondered why doesn't if Vin's back against the wall and he's using the metal shavings in her stomach, that's ridiculous. Why doesn't the metal shavings like go out of her stomach, like out of her back, and just?
Kill her?
They would have if he would have kept pushing.
Dude, I don't know. That's just plot stuff, right?
Well, she's also
Yeah.
flaring pewter at this point in time, making her body incredibly strong
That's a good point.
Yeah, but like
and durable.
I bet they're harder to
it
push
doesn't
on.
change your durability. And I would think that like force equals mass times acceleration, like all
Yeah,
of these
it
little
does.
particles
It
in her
does.
stomach, like
It does change your durability
Well,
because
yeah,
it makes your bones less likely to break. It makes your skin less likely to.
And in your little equation, which is correct, their mass is very, very tiny.
But think about the force that the Lord Ruler is doing to that. And so much so that she's like pressed up against, I think it's a pillar. Sorry, okay, it could be against like the floor. I could see that. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Like so much so that she isn't
She was
breathing
like
anymore.
in like a corner against like the pillar and the floor, kind of.
But so much so that he's pushing on her that she isn't breathing. That like I think the pillar cracks a bit. You would think at that point the shavings in her stomach would like leave the stomach.
Like shrapnel, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they might have, but they're again tiny particles.
They're heavily
they
invested.
might not. They might not be enough to cause the internal damage to be sufficient where it would be crippling.
Yeah.
Like it's a weird section. Like I don't know.
Rule of
I don't know
cool.
how realistic. Yeah, exactly. Like we may have deviated a little bit from actual physics. Just a bit.
Yeah.
Also, the pillar cracks when she gets slammed into it when her leg breaks. That's when the pillar cracks, not when he's pushing on her. It's when she like gets slammed into it.
Gotcha. That's all of my spoiler-free notes for this. Anybody else want to comment on anything?
Either of you guys?
Well, we did it then. We finished the main book. We finished Metal Empire.
Except for the
Congratulations all
epilogue.
around.
Guys, we overthrew the final empire.
Woo! We killed the Lord Ruler.
We did
Except
it.
we still have the epilogue.
Yeah.
Shh.
Hate to be the voice of like not so fast. Hold your chulls there, buddy.
Dang it.
Jones. Yeah.
I'll keep the champagne until next chapter.
Okay.
Hold your Rashadium.
Wait, I want to do one. Colors. I can't think of any.
Hey, there you go.
But yeah, this has been it. For the most part, this book is over. We've got the epilogue left, and that's just going to explain a few things. We're not going to spoil that yet. But the threat is over for the most part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They
It's
defeated the big bad, except for that ominous
warning.
warning that he said at the end, right before he died.
And that is certainly a thing, isn't it? Like, you start thinking about this book, you start thinking about, like, well, hold on, there's a lot of stuff we still kind of don't know, isn't there? You know, we don't really know how the Kandra work. We don't know what the deepness is. Heck, I barely understand what a Mistwraith is. Like,
we don't know
got
what the
a lot.
Inquisitors are. We've never gotten a description of the Kolos.
Yeah.
Like, there's a
Yeah,
lot
it
still
mentioned
to be.
them, but oof.
There's a lot still to be covered in this world.
Scadrial's a big world.
There's 2 more books in this era.
And there's
We're
one
very excited.
at the time of recording. There's one coming out in 5 days. And
Yeah, we're very excited for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but we're gonna head on into the spoiler section now, unless anybody else has anything to add. Okay then. Thank you all for listening so far. we're going to head off into the spoiler section. If this is your first read through, we recommend you stop here. If this is not your first read through and you know most of the Cosmere or the Mistborn series, then please follow us in, because it's likely we will talk about everything and anything. But if this is goodbye, then we would like to wish you goodbye, and thank you so much for listening so far. Have a nice night.
Take it easy.
Adieu.
Have a good one.
And we're back.
Lloyd, Chromium, Bendeloid.
Ah,
Drown.
don't talk about it.
Temporal
Okay,
metals.
so at this point, this is kind of this whole retcon thing that Brandon did. At this point, Laris changed the elementic table so that Atium was one of the 16, because he knew that cadmium and bendeloid would be like impossible to get in this new world. So in order to have his 16, if you line up everything and realize there are 16 thing happen, he added Atium to the chart, basically, which also added Malatium and Electrum. There's a lot
No,
of confusion.
Electrum's in
boy.
the chart. Electrum's in the regular chart.
Electrum's in the regular chart?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, because it's the offshoot of gold.
Yeah.
So Atium, Malatium, gold, and Electrum. Those are our 4 temporal metals in this trilogy. It's very confusing.
So then,
Yeah.
but when did they change that? Was that for Era 2 or was that for?
Yeah,
Sazed changed it.
Sazed
basically.
fixed it.
Yeah.
Because we were left off with, by the way, there are 2 metals left nobody really knows about, which are actually 4.
Right.
Because he
they
was
have
referring.
an alloy.
Well, yeah, but they were referring to the last 2 of the enhancement. Because at that point we only had aluminum, which is the metal that Vin is forced to burn, and duralumin, and they didn't know the other 2 enhancement, which those are the secret ones. But then when we get to Era 2, we learned that cadmium and bendeloid are also now added.
Gosh, there's so many. There's so much to keep track of.
There is.
Holy crap! And there's a lost one.
Don't even get me started. We're not even gonna. Kay's not allowed to talk. She's read the spoiler chapters.
Okay. You
Yep.
axe hound.
I always do it.
You dirty dog.
Okay, let's head back to chapter 35.
Yes.
So that one was where we see Kelsier's religion. We meet Orsier for the first time. Really?
Yeah,
Which
kind of.
was the Kandra playing Renew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We learned that. Oh, we forgot to mention this earlier. That the. Oh no, that's in the epilogue. Never mind. Sorry. So sorry.
We learned that he went around in Kelsier's bones and kind of haunted people for a little bit. That's how you got like the priest saying, the survivor spoke to me.
Yes.
Which I almost gotta wonder how well of a job Orsier did impersonating Kelsier.
Which was gonna be, I think that was Brandon's plan for Kelsier's character. Like, I think he was gonna have Kelsier come back but just be a Kandra with his bones until he decided, you know what? No, I'm doing it. I'm bringing him all the way back.
That has been revealed as the original plan, is that Tensoon would be crazy and think that he is Kelsier while using his bones.
Was that gonna be for Era 3, like the 80s?
We
Mistborn.
don't know when it would be for, but he said that was the original idea for it.
Gotcha. That's a cool idea.
Mm.
No, you
But
don't
then
like that?
he used the Well, part of it went. The insane Kandra went into Bleeder,
Yeah,
and also like I like the idea of Kelsier still sticking around.
I like that
Yeah.
idea better too.
I like Tensoon not going crazy because I like
Yeah.
Tensoon.
One of my favorite parts
Well-
in the entire 6, almost 7 books is when Tensoon is talking about Vin in the homeland.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, I call dibs.
Did we already discuss about how Kelsier gets a new body? Because in my brain, it just went click.
We don't know.
We-
I think.
We talked a little bit on it, but since we
Yeah.
don't really know anything.
I
Nobody
think
knows for sure.
all you have to do is take the bones out of a Mistwraith, right? An unawakened one. Give it
Ooh,
Kelsier's bones, and then staple his
cognitive shadow.
shadow to it with spikes, and boom, there you go, new Kelsier. Kelsier 2.0.
Are you saying he's an awakened? He's shoot, what are they called? Drafts?
Essentially, yeah.
That's kind of cool. And that even ties into him being like connected to every single shard world. Ooh, I like that. That's intriguing.
That's just, it makes too much sense. Like, how did we not think of this sooner? Like, somebody else out there has to have thought of this.
Probably.
It's just perfect.
I don't know.
Well, we might learn in 5 days.
That's true. Well, 5 plus however long
I
it
don't
takes you to
think
read
we're.
it.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna learn.
Don't
about
underestimate my
Kelsier.
power.
Okay, I'll read
Star
that
Wars.
entire day. I read Rhythm of War in 2. I can read this one in 1.
That's impressive. You truly are
That's-
a warrior of
That
reading.
sounds impossible.
I mean,
It was
I will
what was
not
it?
read it in a day.
I will read it in a day. I will freak out, and then I'll be completely alone in the world because I'm the only one who's decided to binge it. My brother won't finish it for another week. You guys will probably take a few days because half of you have got the audiobook,
Yeah.
which takes about a week.
Yep.
yo, I go through the Mistborn books about 9 to 12 hours, depending on which book.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're doing, because like I can't listen to it like during the day, so I listen to it while I'm driving to and
Right.
from work.
I read
What
the
you should
first
do is
3
drive-
Mistborn books in like a week the first time.
Okay, but let's get back on track.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the spoilers section. I really liked how Kelsier gave her the flower,
Yeah, that was really
That
Yeah.
was-
sort of
Mhm.
passing along the dream.
Which,
Which she then passes along to Sazed later on.
Mm-hmm. And then Sazed gives to Spook.
Hmm.
Who becomes the Lord Mistborn?
forget, I'm trying to remember what they call him. Something about Mare.
Mare Wills.
Merwells.
Merwells,
Oh yeah,
that's it.
there you go.
Mare Wills.
But that's not until later.
That's my chapter. Stop taking this away from me. Like, I don't even care if it's multiple chapters. I get that entire bit of Wax and Tensoon meeting. I get that entire section. Dibs.
All right, well, it's going to be a one-man podcast for like a week.
Hello, everybody. This is Reader, and I'm joined by Reader and Reader and Reader.
I'd love to see that.
Especially since Swiggity is the one who records. So
How did we
It's
even
just
get
me
this
having-
one made?
It's just me having schizophrenia in the corner.
I'd be like on, but I'd just be sitting there watching, like, just let me know when to stop recording.
He's got his little bucket of popcorn.
I'm doing different voices for everybody.
And then you find out you're muted the whole time.
Or your mic cuts out halfway through your Steris
Oh,
impression.
I thought you guys were ignoring because I made a comment about shoot, Kay was talking about how what was it? I can't remember what it was, but shoot, but I said the exact thing, and then like 3 seconds later, Kay says it, but she never stops when I say it. So I'm like, okay, I guess she just knew that she was gonna say it.
You should have typed something in one of the chats, and we'd have been like, "Oh."
I didn't know. I just kept making little comments, and it felt like
Are you guys
Kay
mad
was
at me?
just on a roll.
Nope, I just didn't hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, chapter 36.
Wasn't a whole lot of
Inquisitors.
spoiler stuff for that one. I feel like.
No, not really.
No, because
Only
that'll kind of
thing,
get. Inquisitors are tapping gold to heal.
Hmm.
right,
Uh,
which is why they're
Okay.
so hard to make because it requires ferochemists to be sacrificed.
Yep. The aluminum. You got aluminum.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's
They
aluminum.
forced her to. They forced her to
I was trying to
swallow
remember.
aluminum.
I was trying to remember if that was this chapter or the next one, but yeah.
Or aluminium, as it is called where I am now.
Yeah. Do they ever bring back that trick with the arrow tips in any of these books? Or is
Well,
that
that's
only
kind
to
of
the
what
thing?
Vindication does.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
did in a scene in
I thought
the
I remembered
second
that.
book, I think, where like she launches like a whole slew of them at the oncoming horses.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't remember that. I mainly remember that that's basically what the haze killer rounds are
Right, yeah.
for the gun, for
Like you
steel
push
pushers.
them, but you just push back. Like it's the same idea. Like there's like a bushing or something.
Yeah.
That you'd push back. Cool.
Once again, Brandon Sanderson having a little idea and then later expanding upon it.
Like you do.
Yeah. I gotta wonder, does the Lord Ruler not care because he's like, I'm immortal, I'm super powerful, or is it the fact that like, he knows that the well's gonna finish refilling in a year and that he's just gonna fix everything?
I think he doesn't care because the only things that he cares about are maintaining his control over the well and preparing for when Ruin finally does ruin things. You know, like that's his concern. Everything else is dross to him. He's just like whatever.
Yeah, he's more concerned with the fate of the world than the government.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's got bigger fish to fry, so to speak.
Yep.
Aye.
Yeah. So, and he knows that he's strong enough to like stop like anyone who comes at him. He's like he's like, I'm stronger than anyone here, so like what do I have to worry about?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's basically
Like I can he said like I have destroyed armies by myself. You don't scare me.
Man, I really almost gotta want to write the fan fiction for like the 1,000 years of how the Lord Ruler was to how he became.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Like I feel like there could be some ups and downs in that. Maybe we figure out who Lutha is, because Brandon's not telling us.
Like the
'Cause, you know.
namesake of the city, Luthadel.
In which
Oh.
Brandon keeps raffoing it because that's going to be super important.
I don't think it
That's where
is.
the
I
red
think
metal
he
comes
just
from.
doesn't want to answer it.
He might have an idea for it, but he's just like, until I have like something specific, I'm not going to get anybody's hopes up. Same thing with the Lord Ruler's children.
Which are just
Yeah,
casually
he's
mentioned.
very dismissive about that.
I really hope we get to see like maybe the descendants of those children, and they think, and it's kind of like the KKK or neo-Nazis are like, we're the originals, we're blood related to the greatest creature, and we like anarchists or something.
Nah, what I want to see is I want to see one of the Lord Ruler's children has been squirreled away somewhere in a cadmium bubble, and they show up again in the sci-fi era as a full Mistborn and try to take over the
Whoa.
galaxy.
Ah, that would be kind
Mic drop.
Maybe he said that the era 3, one of the things that he's talked about for era 3 is there's a Mistborn going around.
Like
A
serial
Mistborn
killer.
serial
killer.
killers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard about
Maybe.
that.
I'm excited for that.
Which
I
are
don't
they
know about
actually
that.
Mistborn, or are they just spiked up all over the place?
I think spikes are kind of going. I think Sazed would take care of anybody with too many spikes.
Yeah,
How long is
unless
Sazed
they
gonna
have
stick around,
Trillium.
though?
Unless they
That's
have
a-
trillium spikes.
A legitimate
This
question.
is true. Well, he could still access spikes because that's still his magic system. But the problem was that bleeder only had one spike. That was the difficulty.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's you need
We've
like
gone
2 or
from
more.
spoilers to speculation.
Okay, yeah. We're all excited for the 15th. I get it.
Too much cool stuff coming up.
I'm really excited for that 15th. I gotta say.
Let's see. Anything for chapter 36? When Vin gets captured.
It's Gorodel. Gorodel ends up being a pretty good character, right? He kind of comes back.
Yeah, he has a role to play later.
He hangs around.
Yeah, that's cool origin for him.
What about
Yeah.
how the Lord Ruler can read a person's emotions just by the fact he's been doing soothing writing for how long?
Well, and
Well,
his
and
tin.
also through his tin,
his-
yeah.
it's his tin. He can hear your heartbeat.
That's right. He can
Oh
tell if
shoot,
you're
I didn't even
lying.
think of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he can hear your
That
heartbeat.
adds so much to that scene now for me.
Yeah,
He
Carr
can
comes
hear
right out
her
and says it. He's like,
heartbeat.
he can hear the minute changes in your heartbeat, and he can sense the changes in how you sweat and how you like blink and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I forget sometimes about the powers this man has.
It's tin. It's
God.
tin, not his use of soothing and rioting. It's tin. His use of tin allows him to be able to sense that.
He's
Well,
like,
that's
I can
very
hear the blood in your
Superman-esque.
body. You can hear everything. God.
So 37.
This is the
37.
big one because compounding is real.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how. Oh wait, no, we should save that for the epilogue. I think, right? That's where they talk about compounding.
Yes, they talk about
Yeah, okay, that's for the
compounding
epilogue.
in the epilogue.
Kind of. They don't
Yes.
specifically say
They
compounding.
speculate about it, but
Yeah.
it is the precursor to compounding and
Yeah.
yeah.
37, we got Zazed tapping bronze, which is wakefulness, which is probably how he feigned being unconscious and then immediately woke up. Nothing really happens in that chapter that's spoilery.
What's the epigraph about? I feel like the
Actually,
epigraph.
yeah, there was a little something because this is where the earring falls out and Finn can.
It never says where the earring falls out.
I know.
Yes, it
But
does.
No, it doesn't.
It mentions it.
yeah,
It
Point at
chapter
the line.
38. I can
Point at the line.
Give me a second.
I think it
it's
is
when
in
the
the
Lord
next
Ruler's pushing on all the metals in her body, the earring flies out.
one. It
I
does
have
mention
read
it.
that part over and over. It does not mention the earring flying out.
And even if it doesn't, it does mention her picking it back up. So we have hints about what that earring is and why it and that it interacts with the mist and everything.
Here. I have it. I have the line.
Okay.
I have the line. Reader, are you ready? Do you have this
Yes.
edition of this book?
I did a long time ago. I got the fancy European version.
Okay.
Whoa, that's
I would say
fancy.
Fancy
this-
European.
But
Oh,
so
damn.
it says on page 626, down near the bottom, it says, he slammed her with another of his powerful pushes, blasting her backwards. Metal in her stomach wrenched, glass quivered, and her mother's earring ripped free of her ear.
Where's that?
Oh,
I
he said you ain't got
apologize
no
that.
nipple.
Where is that? Okay, so that's the first crash.
It's... Yeah. It's right after she tries to pull on one of the Lord Ruler's bracelets.
She pulled on one of Lord Ruler's bracelets, ones that didn't pierce his skin. He immediately whipped his arm upward, throwing off her pull, making her spin maladroitly in the air. Oh yeah. He slammed her with another of his powerful pushes, blasting her backwards. Metals in her stomach wrenched, glass quivered, and her mother's earring ripped free of her ear.
Why can
There
I
you
not
go.
find that? I can literally not see that. What is going on?
Maybe there's
Maybe
some problem with your
ReaderWarrior.
translation.
Ruin is changing your version of the book. To
Your,
drive
Oh my
you
your
God.
mad.
translation has been tainted by Ruin.
To ruin this podcast. I
The
think that's
paragraph that it's in starts with, "She pulled on one of the Lord Ruler's old bracelets." That's what you're looking for. That's
it's in
the
38.
paragraph.
It's not in 37.
Yeah.
What? It's in 38. Yeah, it's in chapter 38.
Right.
Mhm.
Because we were technically talking about 37.
Oh, there it is. Okay, hallelujah. Jeez, that was bugging the heck out of me. Thank you. I was like, I remember reading it on my second read through because I was looking for it and I noticed it and I was like, oh my gosh, it was there the whole time. But like this one, I could not find it for the life of me. I apologize.
I accept
right
your
then.
apology.
Said without a hint
Wow.
of smugness.
I kind of hope that in the movie it's not drawn attention to, and it's just like if you were to go back, you just see that the earring's
See
no
it.
longer there.
They've got
Like-
to. They have to do that. Like, that would be the best way to do it.
There's just like
Like
a little
he-
bit of blood dripping from your ear or something.
Yeah, like don't draw attention to it. Don't show it flying out of her ear or anything. Just like maybe in the next shot, it shows like the left side of her face and there's blood down her ear, and have it be a nice little detail.
Like if you know, you know.
Yeah. Don't do a super slow-mo shot of it being flung out of her ear. Keep it simple.
And at the same time, that's when the lines appear for the bracers.
No,
Do
that's
we-
later.
Should
It's a
we
little bit
break
later.
that down? Like, should we talk about what's happening there, or should we just save that? Like,
Yeah, let's save that for the overall spoilers because like
Yeah.
the details of that involve. Yeah.
epilogue stuff. Okay.
Right.
I love the Lord Ruler saying he is God. Like, he kind of is.
I
He
am
became their god.
Yeah.
I was
He's
your
maybe a
god. That's what
splinter
he.
god.
He was their god.
Yeah.
Literally.
Even if you couldn't see it.
Even if it was only for like seconds, he was their god.
You've doomed yourself. That's what he
By
says.
Yeah, by killing me, you have doomed yourselves.
Dun,
Which,
dun,
he's
dun.
not wrong.
Right.
No.
You know, at the
No.
end of every
No, he's
RPG,
not,
you
because-
kill God.
Well, not
They
all
definitely
of
had
them,
a worse
but-
time, but they killed Ruin. They got the
Yeah.
true hero. They killed the final empire. They destroyed the final empire, yes, but they
You've
did not
doomed
do
yourselves. They did
themselves.
kind of doom themselves, because then they had
Yeah.
to deal with Ruin.
It would be so much more funner if he says, "You've ruined it all.
Oh,
You've
that would
ruined
It's a
be-
little too on the
everything."
nose.
That'd be
Yeah,
cheeky.
that's a little too on the nose.
Oh, shut up. Let me enjoy this.
I was trying to preserve everything. That was my intent.
I am connected to all that is.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
do like
brand
seeing-
done.
I do like seeing her pull on the myths and use them to help fuel her allomancy.
Talk about Deus Ex Machina, though.
I mean, it only feels like that because we don't yet understand at this point in the story what the mists are.
Yeah. Like, you have to read this as a trilogy to understand everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
and it's a big part of the later books. Like, she spends a ridiculous amount of time trying to do it again and not understanding why. So, like,
Mhm.
it's important, and it's, because it's Brandon, it's already been, like, outlined as to why it works like that and how it works. So,
It is that one thing, though, that has, like, no foreshadowing in this book. It just kind of comes out of
Right.
nowhere.
Yeah, it sets up for later in the book. But I think
And she has talked about how comfortable she always feels in the mists, and how the mists have always been her friend,
yeah.
and like
But there's a difference between like feeling at home somewhere and then having the home grow legs and arms and start punching a guy.
Yeah.
True.
That's like
True.
I love
Hey,
my
speak for yourself,
car,
man.
but then it turns into Optimus Prime.
And punches your lights out.
No, I really love my car.
But yeah, I will say this as a standalone book is not as successful as we now see it as. Like the reason this trilogy is so good is because all the pieces interwoven through everything fit so well together.
Right. Like,
I
there's no
don't-
answers in this book to a lot of our questions. Right.
Mm-hmm. Like the linchpin for the Inquisitors, that kind of comes out of nowhere. You can kind of see it. Oh, of course they would have a weakness, but it had no build up to it.
yeah.
The Kolos are never shown.
That's
They never really explain how a mystery.
and he's gone.
He did freeze like Han Solo in Carbonite. Well, I don't know what to do now. we can't get off the call till he ends the podcast. We're stuck here.
In limbo.
Screens are
Help
frozen.
us.
Hey,
Oh, there we go.
You're back.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with my internet today.
It happens. Do
Yeah,
you remember
well,
what you
that's
were
the-
saying?
That's the price you pay for your fancy European editions.
I'm content with that.
you were talking about Kandra.
We never learn how Kandra are grown up versions of Mistrace. That also
Right.
kind of comes out of nowhere.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else to add before we wrap up for the night?
Ellen's venture has deep steel. I just wanted to say that. Wanted to say that earlier. Didn't get to.
Deep steel.
Deep steel, yeah. It's just something I wanted to say.
Okay.
Because he's ballsy. He charges in there. He's trying to save Valette. And, I don't know. I think he really showed his deep steel this time around.
He's got balls of steel.
Yes. And Laracium.
I'm sorry, Kay.
I did think it was funny that he comes in and he comes in to save her, and then she gets her metal vials back and she just whips butt, and he's like, well, I guess you don't need my help.
I love
Also,
that
you're a
scene.
Mistborn. Where
Cool.
was that information?
Oh,
10 minutes
that's
ago?
why they called it Mistborn. I thought it was about my ex. All right, I'm done. I'm good to go.
Let's
Alright.
see. Is there anything else? We've got the Lord Ruler. We covered him. We've hinted a bit at Ruin. We've talked about hemalurgy creatures. But that's about it.
Yep.
Oh, I wanted to bring this up last episode. Why didn't any of the Inquisitors realize that Renew was a Kandra?
Because Renew was very careful not to actually go to Luthadel.
But he
I
got
think
captured
that
by
they
them.
just didn't. They didn't care enough. I'm gonna be honest, because the Kandra are kind of doing their own thing.
True.
Yeah, that's true. They would know about the Kandra's deal with the Lord Ruler.
Yeah.
They were just trying to lure out the crew, right?
hmm
Yeah. It kind of like we know they instantly can see that the person's a Kandra based upon the spikes. It's not like they can turn off that sight.
Right.
So they would
Yeah.
have to know that, Especially when he stabs an axe into his back. He should know that's not going to work.
I
You should
think
be
he
able
just
to see
didn't
the
care.
spikes.
Just didn't care. I can get behind that.
Well,
Well,
like,
no, because the Kandra can keep its spikes fully enveloped in its flesh, right? So they wouldn't necessarily see the spikes; they would just see the outline of the flesh of the body. Unless he
But
just
they-
happened to hit the spike with his axe, and then he'd be like, "Huh."
I would think that a Steel Inquisitor can see a spikes. Like, I think we've seen that they can see spikes in a person.
that's what I would
Yeah.
think too.
Right, but those spikes that are typically in like other Inquisitors protrude. They stick out.
True. True. But then
Hmm.
why is it dangerous for a Kandra to be near a
Because
Inquisitor?
if an Inquisitor tries to sue the Kandra, they can snap it and take it under their control. Just like Vin does with Kolas later.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, because she also does it with Tensoon.
Yeah, but she needs to use Duralumin for all that.
Right, but Inquisitors are much more powerful. They can do it without Duralumin.
Do we have that? Is that specified?
I like
Like,
I would think-
75% sure.
I would think it would be like Vin level Inquisitor, Vin using Duralumin. Like Duralumin is using all the investiture in that one push.
Because
I don't think.
also Ellen
But-
can do it without Duralumin also.
Yeah.
Some of
So-
the Inquisitors were Mistborn before they became Inquisitors. so
True.
they
I just
thought-
think that
They have double the power.
it's not double though. It would be
Well,
like
It's
but
increased.
1.75.
it's
Because
similar
they-
to Vin's extra ability with
Right.
Bronze.
Seeking.
Yeah. I don't know.
They also talk about how originally, when Mistborn were much more powerful,
They
any
didn't need
Mistborn
it.
could do it. Right.
Yeah. And we see that with Ellen's. I just don't
Right.
think that unless you have Duralumin, anybody born in like the last couple dozen 100 years is strong enough to do that.
No, but we know all Inquisitors are much more powerful than standard Mistborn, at least in this time period.
Yeah, but they're still starting at that base level of. Okay, we can talk about this at a later point.
9 spikes. They can do it.
But they need specifically soothing ones or rioting ones.
Which they
Like
have.
I think an Inquisitor is going to be mostly physical. Like yes, they'll have. Do they have soothing and rioting?
Yeah, I think they do.
A soothing
Have we ever seen an
spike.
Inquisitor? Why would an Inquisitor get a soothing or a rioting spike?
Why wouldn't they? If they found a soother, or
Well,
a rioter,
Because
Why
why would
waste
they ever
that
need that
power?
power? Because
Like-
why would they ever need that power?
Just to have them all. Just to have it. I don't know.
It's just Pokemon. Got to catch them all.
It's part of their.
Like Steel Push,
groove.
Iron Pull, and then they got Gold for healing. Seeking is
Atium.
really popular.
So
ATM.
they have 5 steel spikes that give them the physical powers. So iron, steel, tin, pewter.
Hmm. I'm guessing they also have copper and
Yeah, like one more.
Then they have iron, steel, tin, pewter.
and I'm gonna guess copper or bronze because they got a Seek.
Um
But yeah, I don't
then
think an Inquisitor
have
would have.
4 they have 4 bronze spikes between the ribs, which give them the 4 mental powers: zinc, brass, copper, and bronze.
So there you go.
Do we
The
know that
copper
they're
mine
all-
saith.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna check the copper. Do we know those are each of those? Because what if it's just a whole bunch
Inquisitors
of?
had 4. This says this is copper mined.
Yeah, how trustworthy are they?
Most Inquisitors are also able to use ATM, so they would have been gained this by having an ATM spike. So some of the Inquisitors have ATM spikes, but not all of them. And most Inquisitors had a gold spike as well, but not all Inquisitors.
I just don't see them needing. Okay, we can talk about this later. I just don't see them needing soothing and writing. Why would
mean-
Inquisitors need those?
Interrogation.
Like if they're full, well, they're torturing a person. I don't think they need to add to that. Like if they're full Mistborn, they're gonna have that power. But I don't see the point in wasting a spike to do that. But yes, I think
That's why
that's
you're
gonna
not
be
the
it.
Lord Ruler.
Okay, but that's gonna be it. Okay. Final notes. Anything?
Good book.
Good book.
Yes, we'll have a much longer, more random and whatever
Sporadic
spoiler
analysis.
section for the epilogue.
Yep. But that is going to be it for Mistborn: The Final Empire Part 5. We thank you all for listening once again. We hope you enjoyed our rambling and our scatterbrained thoughts and our predictions and everything else. Just remember, there's always another connection. Bye-bye.
What's the
Bye.
most important words a man can say? Goodbye.
See y'all next week.
One more out there.
Well,
And then-
Atium's not really a temporal metal; it's a god metal. Cadmium and Bendalloy would be the other
Please-
temporal metals.
She
Please
says
write down the
time.
timestamp, because that's all spoilers.
Oh, snap.
Ah.
I'm never gonna remember. I'll write it down.
Womp womp.
I'm trying very hard not to. I was like, no, don't say it, no.
I said it.
How spoiler
Owie.
is it?
It's really not that spoilery.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
It is
don't learn
not.
about-
It's just the names of two metals.
Those two are ones that aren't even known until Era 2. And the God Metal thing isn't a thing until Era 2. It's specifically, Laris made it so Atium was now one of the 16 just so this rule could work. We'll talk about it in the spoiler section.
Yes.
Fine.